Pranam. I'm very happy to join this webinar. JNU has enjoyed variable reputation, but it is undoubtedly one of the greatest universities, not only of India, but in the world. I had the pleasure of dancing in JNU decades ago, in the late 1970s. I think it was 78 or something. And some of the present day political leaders, both from the ruling party and the opposition parties, they were student leaders then, and they still remember cleaning up the stage for me and putting up the dressing room and doing odd jobs. So a dancer, unlike today, was not just looked upon as नाचने वाली, गाने वाली dancer, नृत्य करती है. But a dancer in the early years after independence was highly respected and enjoyed the kind of celebrity status that is enjoyed by the sports people and film people today. So the JNU opportunity repeated itself a couple of more times. And I also, I think, danced at the inauguration of the Arts and Aesthetic faculty when Dr. Karan Singh had presided. Now, coming to my presentation today, I'm again very happy, and I want to thank Vice Chancellor, Professor Jagdish Kumarji, for thinking up this unusual topic. Contribution of women to dance. I would first of all say, and as he introduced me, that I have always called spade a spade in normal life. On stage, I would not call it a spade, but I would describe it as something very beautiful that can do wonderful things. But I would say that without women, can we imagine any dance? I don't think so. Think of a female form, which is naturally made by nature, the human female form, to look attractive, to bewitch, to give joy, delight, aesthetic delight. It is not criticizing or putting away the male form, but a female form, the female form, human female form, is a natural attraction. So I have written a few things which I would like to read out. That this may be the only field in which women have enjoyed natural supremacy since ancient times. The Shastra, especially the Bharatanatyam Shastra, composed by sage Bharata, gives clear indication of the attributes, qualities of a good dancer, a good female dancer, what she should be. But there is no such injunction for a male dancer. I usually find it quite funny that gurus were maybe the accompanists, the musicians, the male gurus and the accompanists, but the dancer was always the woman, the female. Could it be that nature gave visually pleasing form to human female, which naturally attracts attention and gives a particular delight? The typical female form, glorified in painting, poetry, and sculpture, in India especially, shows similar attributes as described by Bharata. But I would like to rather quote here a shloka, a verse from Malavikagnimitram, the drama, Nataka, written by Kalidas, 4th century AD. Malavika is a princess, but in Chadmavesh. Secretly, she is in the court of King Udayan, and she learns dance from Guru Ganadas. She is presented in the court in a competition. And here the description. Dirghaksham sharadindukanti vadanam bahu natavam sayoho Sankshiptam nibidonnatastanam uraha Pashve prasrishtecha Madhya pani mito nitambija ghanam padambaranguli Chando nartayituha yathaiva manasi shrishtam tatha syavapuhu. In short, as if she was created, she was made especially for dance. And this is the very shlok, the great scholar, Dr. C. Shivarama Murthy, who was the Director General of our National Museum and one of the world-renowned scholars, wrote after watching me dance. And that shloka still adorns my brochure, which now, of course, I do not distribute because now it is on social media. But I'll never forget that he said, you bring to mind Kalidasa's Malavika. Okay. So while no mention of male dancers' attributes are found in Natya Shastra, I hope I'm not wrong, there is a chaupai from Tulsi Das's Ramcharit Manas, which I'd like to quote. And this is the occasion when the news of Sri Ram having broken the great bow of Shiva in the court of Janak reaches his father in Ayodhya. And they are all joyful and they prepare to take the Bharat, the party, the royal party to Janaka's Mithila for the wedding of Ram with Sita. Now, the description of the Bharat also has this very interesting doha. Turaga nachamahi kuar bar akani mridanga nisan nagara nata chitta vahi chakita dagahin tala bandhana. What happens? That the Rajkumars, Bharata and Shatrughna, the two other brothers of Sri Ram, who are in Ayodhya, now going with the father and the queens, the mothers, they are on their wonderful horses. The horses are so trained that with the music of the mridanga and the tala, the horses are dancing. And in the middle of that, when the tala, the rhythmic cycle, comes to the summer, the final beat, in the middle of the dance, the horses suddenly stand still, exactly on the beat. And so the great nattas, the dancers, the male dancers, are watching, wonderstruck, something that they could not achieve with the horses were doing. So this is kind of a humor that I would like to present, that while the female dancer has been extolled and has garnered so much praise over the centuries, so much so that most of our divinities have instruments in hand and most of them dance. Here is Saraswati. Saraswati, who has the veena. Lakshmi plays on the tala. Vishnu plays on the mridanga. Krishna has the flute. Shiva has the damaru. And we have our wonderful saint poetesses, Akka Mahadevi, Meera, Lalded, Andal, who sang and danced. Chaitanya sang and danced. Shankaracharya also must have sang and danced, because it's the nature of the body to express height of emotions through dance. But now coming back, I would say that while Shiva, the form of Nataraj, the master, the god, the lord, the king of dance, is famous, what we have overlooked over successive millennia, and which I would like to point out today, is that in millions of Devis epithets, titles, Nandi Vidya Nateshwari, Lasya Priya Layakari. Now Nateshwari, there is Nataraja, there is Nateshwari. And please, may I remind you all that we believe it is the Urja, the Shakti, the energy that moves the universe, that creates. And in every neutron, proton, electron, they are all dancing forever. Nothing is empty in space. Everything is dancing. The solar systems are dancing. And here, dance has been given the title of Shakti. Without Shakti, nothing moves. And the Shakti, the Devi, is Nateshwari, by whose kripa Nataraja can lift the leg and dance and play the damaru. Most of you will find this a little strange, because I think the man-dominated society, as it has become over the past hundreds of years, Purusha Pradhan Samaj, has successively somehow put the female only as a dancer, her other roles as guru, as motivator, as teacher, as the ideal value giver, they have been overlooked. And dancer, the female dancer, is such that she was the Devadasi, she was the Rajadasi, she was the Alankara or the Samanya Dasi. Devi dances, Apsaras dance, the heavenly nymphs, and Devadasis, and all these three categories I mentioned, they dance. Now let me be very clear about it. Till recently, and I'm one of them, that I have danced in most of the large and small temples all over India. And I call it Nritya Seva. It is worship, and it is the offering through dance. Not just flowers and incense, but the entire body. The breath is the incense. The hasta mudras are the flowers. The tala and the footfall, that is the ghanti. The entire body is the temple, and that body, the divineness of the body, the divinity, is offered again in Nritya Seva to the temple, to the presiding deity, male or female. So it was the Devadasi. It was the Devadasi who danced in temples dedicated to the temple. It was the Rajadasi or Rajanartaki who danced in the courts of kings and emperors and chieftains and noble. And it was the Samanya Dasi or Alankara Dasi who danced in festivities, who danced in festivals, even in the private citizens' homes, for such samskaras as Anna Prashana, Upanayana, Vivaha. They were called, they were invited with respect. And you would be surprised to know that without them, the festival, the ceremonies were never complete. They were the auspicious presence who had to be present. So that was the dignity and respect offered. As it happens with every good concept, with every value, with every ideal, what happens? Slowly, over the centuries, over time, things happen. Many people come, they leave their footprints, all kinds of things happen. And the beautiful things, the meaningful things begin to crumble. And so much so that Devadasis and Rajadasis all became prostitutes. They were called prostitutes in the British times. They even, before leaving in 47, they did the utmost damage. In 1946, they passed the Sharda Act, by which dancing in temples was prohibited. Just imagine, in my country, foreigners come and prohibit something that we consider auspicious and divine. Anyway, now it is all gone and we can perform as we will and offer our Nritya Seva in temples. I think it's a very beautiful thing to realize that I make the temple wherever I go. I dance in JNU, I concentrate, I meditate, I think of my space as the temple. I create my temple. The audience becomes divine and that art flows. But coming back to the feminine, the female dancer, I'd like to mention that apart from the Indic traditions, where great dances are mentioned in all our plays and poetry, the Buddhist lore mentions the famous Amrapali, Vaishali. She was so beautiful and so talented that she was given the title of Janapada Kalyani. Now, Janapadas were the city-state republics. Democracy existed then. It is nothing new for India, but we've forgotten the Lichavi Janapadas. And one among them was Vaishali, like Shravasti, Kausambi, and she was the Janapada Kalyani, the auspicious presence of the republic city-state. And Amrapali enjoyed great respect and Aishwarya, so much so that the emperor Bimbisara of Magadha, and after him his son Ajatashatru, they would come quietly, not as emperors, but dressed as a common citizen, to watch her dance, to watch her perform, to just enjoy her, the fragrance of her presence. There are laws in Jainism also. The story of the wonderful dancer, court dancer, Nilanjana. Watching her dance, one day she just crumbled and died in the court. And the emperor was heartbroken. He began to think, what is this life? Kshanabhangur, it's a bubble which can burst at any moment. I have to find liberation from this Kshanabhangurta. Watching Nilanjana, what happened to her? He went to the forest and became the first Tirthankara of the Jainism, Adinatha. There is a wonderful lore also of the dancer Kosha, where Stulibhadra, who was sent by his guru to learn the final lesson to this dancer's home. So he does not enter, but always watches from the window, and he stays in the Amra Kunja, the mango grove. And one day he sees her dance with extra zeal and energy. And after the audience has left, he sees her crying. And then he can't help himself. He goes and asks, what happened? And then she says, my son died this late afternoon, but I had to perform my duty. I have to carry on with my work and my responsibility that the town has given. And now I'm mourning for my son. Sulibhadra learned his lesson. So dancers have been, there are thousands of stories. Dancers have had great lessons to teach, only if the society is willing to open their eyes, ears, mind, and heart, rather than just say, ah, dancer, very nice, beautiful. Ah, she has large eyes, limpid eyes, she looks very good. Yeah, oh, I had seen her then, she's become a little fat. Oh, now she's so thin. Oh, now she's dark, she's fair. All that does not mean anything, because dance is divine, and dance, when it flows through the female form, becomes even more divine. It becomes the Shakti, it becomes the symbol, the iconography of the Devi. Now, I would like to bring you to this, it's not a Puranic, it's Puranic story. It's not a story again. I want to make the difference between M-I-M-Y-T-H, what you call myth. Now, myth or mythos is a Greek word. I do not accept it like all the Sanatanis, all the Indic Vidvans. Why? Because myth is a fairy tale. Something is mythical. We call it Puranic, something that happened in Puratana Kala, which is in the collective memory of the people. Like the 7 days of rains, 7 days and 7 nights. What happened? That is also in Noah's Ark in Christianity. That is also in Borneo, in the rainforests. The same story. So that is Puranic. It's contained in the Puranas, something that happened long ago. Now, long ago, what happened was that the king Banasura of Kamrup, today's Assam, the capital is Prague Jyotishpur. It's even today. His daughter, which is the blessing of Parvati, Usha, she goes back to Parvati, and Parvati teaches her dance, Lasya. And then Usha is married to the grandson of Sri Krishna. From Assam, she goes to Gujarat, Dwarka in Saurashtra. And that is where she teaches to the women of Dwarka and Saurashtra the Lasya, which today you call Garba and Ras. Look at the traditions that have come down over centuries. Similarly, the Ras Leela of Krishna with the gopis of Vrindavan, that exists even today. Apart from that, we have in our tribal communities and what we call the Lokanritya, where male and female dancers equally participate. But there are special dances which only female dancers perform, and which of course are very, very beautiful. I want to make one more statement. The concept of Ardhanarishwara, Ardha Nara and Ishwar. I say Ardha Nari Shwara. Parvati or Devi as the half, and the other half is Purusha. We all have those hormones. I have more of the female hormones, so I'm a woman. You have more of male hormones, you're a man. But we all have both. And therefore, what is wonderful about the Indian female dancer, especially those who follow the Bharatanatyam Shastra tradition. What is wonderful? I myself, like many of my peers in the Biradari, we easily portray. We portray Ram, we portray Arjun, we portray Krishna, we portray Banasura, we portray Shiva. We do the Shiva Tandava, we do the Sri Ram pulling the bow. We do so many things naturally. It's very rare that a male dancer can convincingly portray a female character. Convincingly, I say. And when I say Bharatanatyam and Odissi, the two of those dance forms which were specifically created and designed for a female dancer. These were meant as the solo dance styles, which I learned. Great tapasya, great sadhana is needed, where the Tandava aspect, the masculine vigorous aspect, the Lasya, the feminine graceful aspect, both combine beautifully. It's rare that a male dancer can convincingly, as I said, portray the female ideals or the female characters. There have been very few. Why I say in solo dancing, not in dance theater forms like Kuchipudi or Kathakali, or even Manipuri, which has a separate Krishna and separate gopis. So please pay attention to what I'm saying. It's very difficult for a male dancer to portray female characters, female spandans, female bhavas convincingly. Now, how is that? I would say I learned the martial art form Chow from Mayurbhanj in Odisha. It's a real, it doesn't wear a mask, and it is the warrior's dance with many of the movements, the leaps, the pirouettes taken from birds, animals, and the war. I was the first female dancer to learn it in 1973 and convincingly dance it, not only in Delhi, but around the world, and convincingly combine it then with the Lasya of Odissi. So as I speak about the female contribution of female dancers, the feminine, the woman, to my mind, in our modern times, I don't want to now go back. I've given enough names. There are many more, thousands of names. Unfortunately, our dance history has not recorded many names. And that is one more thing about female dancers, the woman, that however talented she may be, exceptionally talented, gifted, but she remains within her maryada. She does not push herself. Today, we have to push ourselves because of the social media. The times have changed. And yet, I would like to enumerate a few dancers, a few great dancers who have brought glory to Indian dance forms. I would say Gauri Amma, the great and the last Devadasi. I learned from her, one-eyed, she had lost one eye. She was decimated, thin, wilted. But when she started singing and showing abhinaya, my God, she became a goddess. I cannot adequately describe the miracle that happened. Bala Saraswati. Nobody has heard her name, then they are very unfortunate. I would request, suggest the audience, the faculty, and everyone to please now, unfortunately, there's only Google Acharya, Professor Google. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they don't give full information, but at least know the names of those great dancers of our times. Bala Saraswati. World famous dancers touched her feet. Great ballet dancers, Ulanova, Margot Fontaine. You may not have heard the names. The great ballet dancers, they all paid their homage to Bala Saraswati. Rukmini Devi, coming from a Brahmin family, as was said about me, dance was a no-no, and she set up Kalakshetra, which has now become a world-famous organization, institution. Indrani Rahman, who brought out Kuchipudi from a small village of Andhra and Odissi to the world, first outside their respective states, to India, and then to the larger world. Of course, Shanta Rao, Kamala Lakshman, Yamini Krishnamurti, and so many more. Today, my contemporaries, they are doing wonderful work. The younger ones are doing wonderful work. There is a profusion of male dancers today trying to prove that they are as good, if not better. I do not want to dispute it. I only want to suggest that God made woman to dance, to give aesthetic delight, to give joy, and please the eyes, the ears, the heart. So let us celebrate the woman in Indian dance traditions. Manipuri was mentioned. I'll lastly mention again Mohiniyattam. Sorry. From Kerala. From Kerala, there is Kathakali, mask like paints and all that, and Mohiniyattam, which, as the name suggests, can be danced only by women. No man can ever dance like Mohini. And yet, I will conclude with this beautiful Puranic story of the Asura, son of Diti, mother of Asuras. And he got the boon, of course, from Shiva himself, that whoever he touches would crumble into ashes, would burn. And he tried to touch Shiva himself to try out the efficacy of that boon. And Shiva is running and he is destroying the world. And that's when the one and only male dancer, Vishnu, he takes the form of Mohini and appears on the scene and distracts Asura. And Asura proposes marriage. And Mohini says, I'm a great dancer. Compete with me. If you're better, I'll marry you. And so the dance competition ensues. And Mohini, of course, while dancing, takes the Asura to such a frenzy that as she does the movement of touching her head, Asura following suit, touches his own head and burns himself to ashes. Now that is Mohini. And that is the one and only example. But that also shows that dance by a female can be beneficent, beneficial, or a dance by a female like the Apsaras distracting rishis and munis from their tapasya can be bad. And that is where I would like to close my short presentation. There is so much to say because the contribution of women to Indian dance is something that is beyond description, definition, and beyond imagination. So thank you once again for giving me this topic. And now I can take the questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving us this in-depth, incredible women's contribution to this dance forms. And obviously, this whole classical dance is not just an entertainment. This is designed to decorate one's consciousness, I think. And I have been reading about it. It is actually defined as hidden language of the soul, of the body. So definitely, dance is something which brings one's personality, one's outlook, one's inner self to the dance. So thank you very much for putting your thoughts across with the audience today. Now I request Dr. Anuja to take up few questions. I see a lot of questions here. Maybe one or two we can take.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ranjana. And thank you, Dr. Sonal Mansingh, for giving such a beautiful portrait of a women in their dance, in an Indian classical dance. Uh, just a minute, the plane is going up from us. That's right. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sonal Mansingh. You have given a beautiful way of how women has given their performance in Indian classical dances. You are a renowned Indian classical dancer, choreographer, and orator, and you are a Rajya Sabha member. And all these recognition and you can say the position and honor what Dr. Sonal Mansingh has got. She never says that this is Sonal Mansingh who has got this, but she says that it is the art and culture and tradition of India that has been honored, basically. So you are acknowledged as a master of cultural interpretation who explains interlinkages with philosophy, literature, sculpture, mythological parables, that is folk tales through dances. So your choreography is often rooted in the Indian mythology, and these are some assumptions that the portrayal of female characters is basically regressive or demeaning. So how and in what form women character is being portrayed in your dance forms?
Anujaji, your voice is very faint.
Okay.
And the final question, if somebody can please repeat it, the question.
I can repeat. Can you hear me loud now? Yeah. So I'm just saying that your choreography is often rooted in Indian mythology, right?
No mythology, don't call it mythology, I'm sorry. Indian Puranas.
Okay, Indian Puranas.
Okay,
And
yeah.
there are many assumptions that the female portrays. I mean, the female characters in this Puranas sometimes have been regressive or demeaning. So how you basically call that women character being portrayed in your dance forms?
This is a very large question. I would quickly say that my work, like Draupadi, my solo dance theater, which I created in 1994. And I was working on it ever since my childhood because Draupadi sat on my head, literally, that, you know, I want to, I want to, I want to, I want to. Now, Draupadi is the leitmotif, let's say. A woman who is so Tejasvi. A woman, she was called Tarka Shastra Praveena, who is excellent in 64 arts, in logic, as well as dance, as well as in music, in mathematics, and everything. And she's beautiful. A beautiful and intelligent woman is often seen as a threat, even today, even today. And so Draupadi, what happened to her and how her honor had to be avenged. And she is Prakriti, Draupadi. There's a whole, what does her name mean? Many people don't even know. The daughter of King Drupada. What does Drupad mean? Dhru is Druma, trees. Pada is landmass. A forested, lushly vegetated landmass, Drupada. Draupadi, therefore, this daughter is Prakriti, is nature. And today what we see, the floods, hurricanes, cyclones, volcanic eruptions, forest fires, and of course the pandemic. If all this is not Prakriti ka kop, what else it is? So we have, what shall I say? We have subjected the Prakriti, the woman, to quite a few regressive actions through the ages again. But woman has come out on top always because she's given, I think, this great inner strength. I doubt if any man, I mean, it's a touche, it's a kind of a funny comment, but it's often made. I doubt if any man can carry a baby 9 months, day in and day out. 9 months of that baggage, and then go through that terrible labor pain and give birth. And then from birth onwards, again, take care of that baby, whether boy or girl. I mean, so the woman's nature is such. All this like Sita, like Draupadi, like Panchakanya. But I would say I have also portrayed what we call ordinary women, like me and you and so many. And I have so many of my dance choreographies where I extol the inner strength of woman, her physicality, which gives birth to spirituality, what you call spirituality. Spirituality is not a pill that you can swallow and you become spiritual. A woman by nature is spiritual. One who can bear that burden, that baggage, smilingly, happily, the motherhood, that is the ultimate spirituality, if you ask me. And therefore, I have portrayed over, I think, how many now? 66 decades, women of every aspect.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. There are many questions, but one important thing that I'm just clubbing few things that people generally these days talk about women empowerment, gender equality, social justice for weaker sections of society, women's right, gender just society, and so on and so forth. So I just want to know, and I think the participants, they are just they have the keen eye view of this, that how these things, these issues are being reflected in the dance forms these days.
Sashakti-karan is the word, right? Sashakti-karan, empowerment of women. And this is something that I find very funny. Woman is empowered. Sometimes she's not conscious of it. And it remains for a dancer, an artist, to remind women, you are naturally empowered. Wake up. Generally speaking, coming away from dance also, because I traveled such a lot, the Indian dance is a generic term. As I said, there are so many folk dances, tribal dances, the Shastriya dances, the Devo Bhakti, Bhakti Nritya, and martial dances. Now, cutting across layers of society, the women who work day in and day out with, carrying bricks, women who work in the fields, women who work in corporates, and women who work as ministers and governors and lawyers and teachers and scientists and mathematicians and all that. So to lump every woman together today is rather difficult. I would say, as I understand, the dancer's task, as I look upon it, is to awaken the conscience and chetana and remind each one, you have it in you, you have it in you. Wake up to your own strength. Wake up to your own Sashakti Karana. Wake up to your greatness. Wake up to your majesty. Wake up to yourself. I think that has, and I've danced in villages also. Let me tell you, not just in auditoria, okay? I have danced in every state of India, across in villages, in smaller towns, in mufassil areas, in rural areas, and in cities. I've danced in colleges and schools and primary schools as well. So what I'm saying is, it is possible to touch the heart and to put a little chingari, a little spark somewhere, which can take the form of fire later on. As I hear from so many later, ma'am, we had heard you, ma'am, I had seen you, ma'am, you left an impression, ma'am, I tried to be, ma'am, I remember this you said. Happens all the time. So it is not the immediacy of dance, but the vibrations of dance which remain for decades in lives of people. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. It's
thank you
to hear from your side about all the aspects that you have touched today regarding dance, Indian classical dance, and all. So it is over to you, Dr. Ranjana.
Thank you,
Let me
Dr.
thank madam. 1 second. Let me thank properly.
Okay.
Dhanyavad. Thank you, all of you. And I hope you have enjoyed my little presentation. One suggestion, if there are more questions, please send them on to me. I would like to reply to them, which you can put on your website or Facebook or wherever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you, Dr. Sonal Mansinji. Thank you very much for joining us today for a very powerful presentation. And